For the rest of the hour, we are joined by the man that runs trendsresearch.com. And, of course, their logo or their catchphrase is very accurate. History before it happens. Those that don't know history are doomed to repeat it. It's been said many times. And I know Gerald will have it all at his fingertips, not to toot his horn, but just to show he knows what he's talking about, that they would try to start war with Russia. He said that about 4 years ago. He said it again last year in one of his major trends. He said, look for the police state to expand. Look for them to try to destabilize the country because they never get held accountable for creating crises. And he talked about further dollar devaluation and more. And we're nearing the next big flashpoint. This is the age of exacerbated and contrived crises. So I want to get his take on the waterfront, what the new trends are, the trends he predicted accurately, and a bunch of other issues. But first, Gerald, entertain me here for a moment in my question. Regardless of what you think about the borders being open or shut, libertarians, pure libertarians, and I consider myself to be a libertarian, but not a purist because there's no such thing. It's a fantasy land in this current situation. You can't have countries that are third world collapse where people get 50 cents an hour, where they don't give us free health care or free welfare or can't go there and have our babies, and then say, but all of you from Brazil to Mexico, from Guatemala to China, from India to the Congo, you can come here and get everything free, and anyone that doesn't like that is a racist. And by the way, we're the Democrats, go with us, we're going to take the guns, and then give them driver's license in 7 states. I mean, that is an open political takeover plan. And the Blue State Project, we have video via Veritas Project, they admit on video, we're bringing in folks, we're giving them IDs, we're taking over. And so I've always been against the Republicans and Democrats, and the Republican blue bloods are horrible. They're working with them on this. But for me, this border situation is so transparent. And then even if you are for open borders and believe that everyone deserves everything free, 7 billion people outside the U.S., everything should be free. Yes, white people are fundamentally bad and evil. They all need to be gotten rid of, you know, a.k.a. Al Sharpton. Even if you believe that, which, of course, is ridiculous, Obama is now acting completely outside of Congress, unlike any president in our lifetimes. And on every issue, on guns, on borders, whatever, saying, I'll do whatever I want. I called for Bush's impeachment. I called for Clinton's impeachment because they were bad. So did Ron Paul. But Ron Paul said 2 weeks ago on the show, he said, Alex, you're right. Obama is more brazen. He's gotten away with it, and he is arrogant about it, and we're in deep trouble. We may be approaching the big event, the big collapse point you've been warning about, where we incrementally go into the collapse. They deny it. They deny the Titanic's listing and that silverware is falling off the side. And then finally the ship's breaking and going under. We're in the lifeboats, and people are still denying it. Gerald, I want to hear from you because you worked as a top consultant to government corporations, your best-selling author. For folks that don't know who you are, most people do, but we have a lot of affiliates. You've been inside the system. What is the master plan here, and how dangerous is this, or do you disagree with me?
Well, going back, let's start with the open borders. This is old news. I wrote about this in Trends 2000 in 1996, about one of the greatest threats to America was going to be the immigration problem. It was building then. Without getting into any emotions, you know me, I'm a political atheist. I just stated the facts and how wages kept declining. Studies from all across the spectrum showing the proof how American wages were declining as more and more people were flowing over the borders. And I wrote about the H-1B visas before anybody even knew what they were. And that was being pushed by the so-called Silicon Valley people because it brought in a lot of cheap labor for them. What we have, Alex, is a country of 316 million people. We have a quarter, 25% of the young people, poverty. We have levels of people on food stamps. We still have massive unemployment. And again, anybody that wants to see the real unemployment numbers rather than the baloney that they're shoving down our throats, thanks to the rejiggering of them by Slick Willie Clinton, you go to John Williams Shadow stats. We're up to around 22%. Now, when you go back to the Great Depression, what did they do? They closed the borders.
Gerald, your Skype's breaking up too much. Gerald, I want to reconnect with you and have you start back over because this is so important. And I did read your book, Trends 2000, back at the time. I was in a Barnes & Noble or something and picked it up, and I remember that was in there. And again, Ross Perot warned everybody. And that wasn't even about open borders. That was about lowering the trade deals. He said it would wreck both Mexico and the U.S. and Canada. It's done that. So it transfers wealth to the top 0.1%. It wrecks the middle class. It doesn't create a ladder up for the poor people. And Gerald is breaking it down. So I want to get his trend on where all of this is headed. Skype is an amazing technology, obviously, like right out of Star Trek. The only problem is that sometimes it has hiccups and problems. So we're getting Gerald Celente back on right now. We'll carry him to the end of the hour, and we'll skip this network break so that he gets that time back. But I want him to start over with what he had to say there, because that was so critically important. This is mathematical economic fact.
Okay, we got him back.
Gerald, please start over from the beginning. Your take on what's happening with the borders.
Yes, as I mentioned, we wrote about this in Trends 2000. Here's a quote. Migration is a greater threat to global stability than has been recognized. The sheer press of numbers of very poor, made aware by radio and television of living conditions a boat ride away, is likely to become a steadily more destructive political force for these. Check Foreign Relations, 1994. And here's what I wrote. Immigration with its self-sustaining heating system and an endless supply was a hot issue. In recessionary times, even menial jobs are prized, and immigration labor drives wages down still further. A University of California study showed that roughly 1/5 of the growth in the wage gap between the skilled and the unskilled since the mid-19th was linked to the growing supply of unskilled immigration labor. Illegal immigration was costing the chiefly affected states, New York, Florida, Texas, Illinois, and California, an estimated $8 billion a year in services. I go on to write, money spent on illegal immigrants was money, in italics, not spent on needy citizens. I wrote this in 1996.
Unbelievable. And now the numbers are just astronomical, and the immigrants have been taught they're God's gift to the earth. No one can criticize them. And they've got full government backing who wants an endless flood of people that want services as the country goes bankrupt. What is the political class really thinking, Gerald?
Well, first of all, putting political and class together don't go. I mean, what are the political psychopaths and sociopaths? And let's go back when it was breaking up, the audio. You go back to following the Great Depression, they put severe limits on immigration so the people in the country could get jobs. And we don't have jobs now. As I mentioned, when you go to John Williams Shadow stats, you see that the number of unemployed 2%. So what kind of imbecile would say, yeah, let's open up the borders. Our people don't have jobs. We're going to bring in even cheaper labor, drive down wages and income even lower so that we can get their votes. That's all it's about. That's all the politicians ever care about. This is not a humanitarian issue.
Hi, I'm Dr. Edward Group. Today I'd like to talk about the war on women.
You've experienced and heard about the benefits of Super Male Vitality. Now, the new formula has arrived. Introducing the new Super Female Vitality. I have specifically designed this formula to help the body naturally regulate itself without the use of artificial hormones. Key ingredients chosen from the highest quality sources. Each of these ingredients works synergistically with the female body in order to maximize overall vitality. You've heard the reviews and the feedback on how the original Super Male Vitality has revitalized relationships. Now, both the man and the woman can have the revitalization in their own bodies with Super Male Vitality and Super Female Vitality. Secure your Super Female Vitality today from our limited stock at InfoWarsLife.com.
But getting back to the border, it's known in the financial actuaries that when a country's super booming, you want skilled and some unskilled laborers. But when it's in trouble, you want to shut things down. Well, they have just been opening everything up, pushing for the most poor, most destitute, to be pure clients of the government welfare state, Cloward and Piven. So, Gerald, we've got you on phone and Skype now. Clearly go over the key point. They shut our borders down during the Great Depression. We have the numbers. We know what's happening. It's all about votes. It's all about political power. Go ahead.
Yes, and what's really important, as you pointed out, the numbers are there that show how wages decline as immigration increases, and our numbers are terrible. We're looking at median household income now being below 1999 levels, and they're even talking about a decline on the median household of losing 36% of income since 2003. So the more cheap labor keeps driving down prices. This is a political issue. As I mentioned, if it was a moral issue and they were going to pound their chests on this, hey, how about them drone strikes to blow out people? Just got a couple yesterday, didn't they? Yeah, it was only in Afghanistan. Hey, how about that moral issue of killing over 1 million people in Iraq on a war that was started on lies? This has nothing to do with morality, this border issue. It has to do with political expedience. So when we look at it, and as I mentioned, they closed the borders during the Great Depression. They didn't reopen them until well into the 50s, and even then, immigration was very moderated. And I know firsthand because I had cousins from Italy that couldn't come here. So this is all for politics, has nothing to do with morality as I see it. And then going back to the economics as we're looking at it, as we're talking, the markets are continuing to go down. One more point on this immigration issue, Alex. It's worldwide. You're looking at people flooding out of Libya, Tunisia, Egypt, all of northern Africa, Yemen, Bahrain, the whole area, what's going on now with Israel and Gaza. So what I'm saying is they're flooding over to Europe as well. Immigration, as I wrote in Trends 2000, was going to become a global issue. It is. There's no stopping it unless I have a solution, by the way. We're starting an Occupy Peace movement, and it's built on Rebuild America, no foreign entanglements. Bring home all the troops and seal the borders. As you well know, I'm a close combat practitioner. I believe in self-defense. I want to defend America. I want to defend America by closing the borders and not become involved in foreign entanglements. There's no reason why these borders are so porous, and the hypocrisy of it all. We have a Homeland Security, we have NSA, they're spying on us, they're watching us in the toilet, they're following us everywhere, all are feeling us up at the airport, all under the big lie that they're going to stop Al-Qaeda and al-Nusra while we got, 60,000 little kids flooding over the border on their own. Who are they kidding with this BS?
Isn't the political class in danger in their hubris and their arrogance of really waking the public up? I'm starting to see that happen. I mean, to have the TSA still searching babies' diapers, I've seen it last time I flew last month, and trying to grab my crotch while the border's wide open and while our government funds Al-Qaeda and IS. I mean, it just doesn't hold water anymore.
Exactly, but they're not bringing that up. In this whole discussion of immigration, flooding over the border, illegal immigrants by the millions, they're not bringing up what a scam the whole NSA, the whole militarized police state, Homeland Security is. It's just robbing our money and giving it to the cyber-industrial complex and a bunch of crazy SOBs. Because if it was they can't stop kids from coming over the border. Yeah, they're going to stop Al-Qaeda or Al-Nusra. Yeah, maybe if these kids dress up with a burqa on, maybe they'll stop them then. It's hypocrisy. It's a lie. And all they're doing is putting in these things to stop our freedom.
If we have any political awareness, it's only racial to fight with each other. And they do it all in the name of political correctness. And when you finally realize MSNBC and CNN are consciously doing this, it makes you want to throw up. And then Fox News will play the other angle, of the old white person angle, and then just play us all off against each other instead of transcending the fraud and really understanding how it works. Gerald Celente, trendsresearch.com, is our guest. I want to take 5 or 6 calls for Gerald on any subject you want to raise, but I just want a specific quick question for Gerald so we can get to you. The toll-free number to join us is 800-259-9231, 800-259-9231. First-time callers I want to add as well. Do that a few times a week. Briefly, don't forget the nightly news is subscriber, and then that subscriber base helps pay to fund the larger free radio operation, the free apps. We take the nightly news a day or so later, put it out for free to everybody. That costs money to have a crew cut up and upload it. The magazine, everything we do is about getting the word out. Please become an InfoWars Nightly News subscriber today, prisonplanet.tv. If you're not a subscriber, become one. If you are a subscriber, 11 people can use each membership with the same username, so you can share it with friends and family. It's $5.95 a month per membership. That's 11 people that can use it. That is literally a couple pennies a day. You can also sign up for a year and get 2 months free or go month to month. That's prisonplanet.tv. Okay, Gerald, I'm going to give you the floor for the next 10 minutes to break down the trends you predicted, the next phase of the trends, other big news, and we're going to take some phone calls with Gerald Celente.
All right, I'm picking up what you said, Alex, about how they're dumbing us down with sports and with video games and and celebrity culture. The cover of this current Trends Journal, don't blame Obamacare, blame I don't care. The people are responsible for what's going on. Look what this society has become. Look how low the bar has been set. So that's a major part of it. And also, as we were just talking about, and again, you know, you and I hadn't talked about this before we got on the air, about the borders being open. Here's a story that we did. Stop terrorism? Not a chance. And we showed how during the Super Bowl, the story that nobody covered on how that guy got on a bus in New Jersey with credentials he had from an old music concert a few years earlier, got on the bus, got through security, and gets in front of the camera as they're interviewing the player of the game and starts talking about 9/11. And this is when you'll see that we heard for week after week how the FBI and the CIA and the NSA and all the police departments around the metropolitan area, and you saw these guys out there armed to the teeth, and this guy gets through. So they're lying to us about terrorism to steal our money. And if we do have terrorism, could anybody call it payback. You can't invade other countries, slaughter millions of people, destroy their families and their lives, and not expect them to get even with you. So the whole terrorism thing is both artificial and being created so that if it does happen, we're responsible for making it happen. It didn't happen in a vacuum. On to the economy. Look at the numbers coming out of China today. Their service sector is down to 9-year lows. Their new indexes are showing 8-month lows in other areas. And they're dumping money into the system just like America is. Over there in Europe, they're coming up with a European name for quantitative easing. They're trying to keep Mr. Ponzi alive. He's on his deathbed, and they're filling him with as much monetary morphine as they can to keep him to make it seem as though he's alive. And then you pick up today's Wall Street Journal and you read how all of the lending institutions are lowering the standards and letting people borrow money that, again, aren't qualified for it. And as we had written in a Trends Journal over a year ago, how they were building a bubble with auto loans. Hey, you want to buy a new car, don't have a job, got no credit? We'll make up some for you. So now that bubble is ready to burst as well. Even with all of this cheap money, you're looking at a housing market that's barely pushing forward. And then you look at some other data coming out. You look at the data coming out from Target, from Walmart, and you look at data coming out from those places like Outback Steakhouses and others that used to service the so-called middle spectrum of America, they did not recover from what they call the winter frigid economy. They expected diners to come back out and eat again as they were before the winter chill set in. They're not. And you keep adding up the numbers one after another, even at the high end. You're looking at Coach, for example, looking at declines of 17%, 21% the last quarter in the U.S. Walmart, but even at the high, 17% this quarter. And here's the language that they use. They just had a merger with like these dollar stores, two of them. I don't know which, I forget the names. Family Dollar and your sister's Dollar. I don't know which two. They just merged, and the way they announced it, the prostitutes on CNBC, the dollar stores where average Americans shop. And that should have been the end of the cut. Average Americans shop at dollar stores. At a time when we grew up, when there were in every community, there were department stores of levels of quality and class that are far above now the Macy's and the so-called middle spectrum. They're gone. They're washed away. So when we're looking at the economy, as Dr. Paul Craig Roberts says, and by the way, I want to make this really clear, there is no one that I respect more for geopolitics and economic insights and analysis than Dr. Paul Craig Roberts. So as he points out, I point out, and others point out, Max Kaiser, this is nothing more than an artificially inflated bubble. Moving on. We are on today, Alex Jones, on your show, they are commemorating the first shot fired of World War I, the Great War. They should never use that word great with it. I know why they use it, but they should have used the disastrous war, the war of slaughter, the war that killed 20 million plus civilians. 90% of the wars 90% of the casualties in all of the wars are the civilians. So, as they're commemorating that war today, we are on the brink of World War III. How many more numbers do people have to add up? How many more conflicts do they? And I take that word away. That word conflicts is a stupid word to use, and they use it all the time. Oh, a conflict. Oh, you had a disagreement. No, slaughters are going on in Ukraine. Slaughters are going on in the Middle East. Slaughters are going on around the world. Slaughters are going on in the Xinjiang province in China. Hey, Thailand's out of the news. Oh, yeah, they had a military coup. Yeah, but let's not talk about that. Now you're seeing the United States this weekend announced now we are training the Ukrainian National Guard.
It's crazy. And now this two-star general gets killed by the Al-Qaeda crazy Haqqani network people. I mean, it just shows how the political elites sit back and get more money and power out of wrecking the planet and wrecking our lives. Why do we let them do it? I want to go to phone calls, Gerald.
Well,
but
just one more minute. And that is what you've just mentioned, and that's what stirred my thought. You said about a general getting killed. Alex, this is the New York Times today. This is where the dead Americans are. They don't make the headlines. When a general gets killed or a, quote, ambassador in Benghazi, then it's news.
That's right.
Then we have to look into this. But when Keith Williams, 19 years old, from Visalia, California, gets killed, he gets way down the bottom of the page, along with the others that are 23 years old, another 23-year-old from Kenosha, Wisconsin, on and on. They keep the little people down at the bottom.
That's right.
But when the big guys get killed, we got to put a commission together. We have to look into it.
I agree. In fact, I meant to make that point earlier that notice how they hype this up. But then when the little people die, when one man dies, you know, it's a tragedy. When 10,000 die, it's a statistic, to quote Joseph Stalin. But I noticed in your magazine on page 14, you have a shot of Cary Grant dressed super sharp, like all the photos I saw of my great-grandfathers and grandfathers when they went out, because you had respect for yourself. You weren't fancy. You weren't a glitter bug. You just, you know, people took you serious. You took them serious. And then it just shows how people dress today with their drawers hanging down around their ankles. And again, McDonald's, I read a study decades ago about this, was the first to put thank you up, throw your trash away. It didn't even lower the price of the food. It just lowered the service, lowered the society's expectations. Nobody pumps the gas for you, gets rid of the entry-level jobs. Car maintenance goes way down. You used to just sit in your car. Now they do it. Now you have to do it. And it's the Walmartians and the people having no concern or not taking it personal that they're being screwed over. I think television did this to us. It turned us into spectator Walmartian zombies. And I think that's why society's gotten so bad, Gerald.
That's part of it. And, you know, we had a conference here last week. It just ended on Sunday. A History Before It Happens conference in Colonial Kingston. They held the meetings at the 1774 Academy. Alex, people came from all over the world. A young man came from Japan. It was his first time to the States, from Australia, from Switzerland, from Oklahoma, from Texas, all over the world. And one of the participants was a priest. And he started talking, and he said that he heard me on Coast to Coast one night and talking about what will change. And I said, the only thing that will change, and it goes back to what you were saying with the Trends Journal, is when people have courage, dignity, respect, and passion. And that's what's been lost. They don't have the dignity and self-respect. I'm old enough to remember when you got on an airplane, it wasn't a flying circus. You didn't see a bunch of slobs roll in who could care less about how they looked, how they talked, and how they behaved. So what it is, it's a lowering of the bar of the culture. And they say the fish rots from the head down. I'll tell you when I really saw the change happen. When Slick Willie Clinton ran for president. Now remember, we were used to Eisenhowers and Kennedys. We were used to men of dignity and courage. And all of a sudden, a clown rolls out with a pair of sunglasses on and playing a bad saxophone on Arsenio Hall. How's that for a presidential presence? And it just kept getting lower. Now you have Obama during the last campaign and all the rest of them yucking it up on The View and sitting around with little comics, little boys, the Colberts and the Stewarts, the Lenos and the Lettermans. Let's get this straight. When you have to go to a comic to get your news, you can see how stupid the whole society's become. It's one every night is Freak Night on TV when the presidents, the prime ministers, and the joint chiefs of staff yuck it up with the clowns. The whole bar has been lowered. So the fish rots from the head down. They set the pace.
Listen, I want to go to some calls here. We're skipping this network break because I want to get extra time because we lost some time when your Skype broke up. But the last few minutes, be ready to give me your take on Russia and where you think that's going to go. I want to get your prediction on the Ukraine situation and the IS situation. Thomas in California, thanks for holding. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, you're welcome. Thanks a lot for being there. I love you guys. I used to listen to Ray Taliaferro. I'm a veteran. And my take at the whole thing is, due to you, Alex, thank you, and bless your soul, Americans are too smart. They need a dumbed-down military and a dumbed-down police force in order to do the one world order. They couldn't have done that with Republicans in. They needed to have the borders open with the Democrats in. Okay? That's the only deal. We got the left hand of the monster and the right hand of the monster. Now, I'd like to know, what are the consequences of our military is now going to take up a good percentage of these lesser educated immigrants that are coming in?
Well, I'm not even that concerned about people that end up becoming part of the military because there's something there. When you've got women with 2 or 3 kids and they're going to be hooked on the Democrats immediately with an agenda that's racially based, I mean, it's bad. That's not the melting pot. That's Thomas's point, listening on KOMY 1340 AM in Santa Cruz, I should add. Gerald, your take on that?
I think you covered it. You know, the issue is a dumbing down throughout. And they're using this again. The immigration issue is very obvious.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Americans have turned into 500-pound wall Martians. Yeah. You know, so we're talking about these immigrants all day. We're in bad shape as well. I mean, it's just a mess. But I hear what you're saying, Thomas. It is about bringing in desperate people that think the Democrats are their mommy. Let's talk to Larry in Wyoming. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Yeah, first-time caller. I'll try to get to my point quick. I just retired from a practice of periodontics, and I can assure you, in the real world, with the people that dress right and look right, they're not right. I mean, in a biblical sense, and I'm not a religious guy, but I'm saying it's cannibalism. As a periodontist, I was expected to lie and deceive my patients so that I could get referrals to cover for the inadequate care of the general dentists who were destroying the gum health of the patients, waiting to put crowns on all their teeth and then referring. So there's corruption within every industry, I think. It's very...
Oh, yeah, well, there are lots of people that are dressed nice that are predators, and that there's all sorts of stuff that goes... But, of course, society's not perfect either, but I hear what you're saying. Do you have a question for Gerald Celente?
Yeah, the question is, when do you think the point of getting real happens with this culture? Everybody is basically cannibalizing everybody.
Well, listen, exactly. We've gone into a predatory system rather than a production system.
It goes back to morality. As I said, the fish rots at the head from the head down. So let's suppose I'm still the kid that grew up in the Bronx, and I'm hanging out with the guys, and one of my friends has an idea to pull off a heist or anything. And I say to him, hey, that's not right. You know what he'd say to me? What, are you stupid? Everybody's ripping us off. The banks are ripping us off. The government's ripping us off. Oh, and you want to play it straight? That's why morality is important. You have a loss of morality at every level of government. And what people are doing is they're following the leader. There is no morality. Look at the slaughters going around the world without taking a side on any of the issues. Where are the religions talking about this? I don't hear a people.
Well, I'll tell you what's happening. People watch television 7-8 hours a day, and they just believe the fantasy while the real world's going on around them. The public is asleep. I think that's a big part of it. Let's talk to Red in Texas. Red, what's your question or comment?
Alex and Jill, good to talk to you. Hey, I'm going to go over something real quick.
Hey, do me a favor, get off your speakerphone real quick.
I'm not on speakerphone.
All right, well, just ask it real quick because it sounds like speakerphone.
I'm on my regular phone. I was just asking about Bitcoin. I need to know where to go with the money.
You know, I always say I'm not the right guy for Bitcoin. But to me, it kind of reminds me of the dot-com boom. It's hard for me to grasp it. And it was hard for me to grasp a lot of things that were going on in the dot-com boom, that when it bust, I saw why it bust, because there was nothing behind it. And there are too many different countries with too many different regulations and too many different states. That's my position on it. Having said that, there are those that know a lot more about it and believe in it differently than I do. So that's my take on it. I just don't have a grasp on it that makes me comfortable with it.
I was about to say, I have a bad feeling at the end of the day, but it's now being expressed as a revolution against the big banks. So I get that part. I'm just saying, watch out, folks. Sure, if you want to get involved, that's your issue. I think we're going to start accepting it on the shopping cart because people are demanding it. Big mainline groups are using it. And so when in Rome, do as the Romans. But at the end of the day, I'm not recommending people get involved in it. I'm saying that's a choice by choice for each person.
I would agree exactly what you said. And then I look at the other end of it. Why would I want a Bitcoin that's up in vapor when I could buy gold or silver?
Exactly. So I'll use it. If people want to use it in commerce,
exactly.
I'll use it, transfer it into Fed notes, then transfer it into silver or gold.
Yeah, we take subscriptions, by the way, with Bitcoins. We have no problem doing that, and then we just convert it.
Exactly. I mean, it's the original alchemy. We take fiat Bitcoin or fiat Federal Reserve and then transmute it into property or into crew or into building new projects or into gold and silver.
That's right.
It's amazing alchemy. Let's go ahead and talk to Vince in Montana. Vince, thanks for holding her on the air.
Thank you for taking my call, guys. Hey, Gerald, I've got a question for you. I've been posting stuff on the internet for 20 years, and I have never run into a problem being blocked or spammed like I have with disinformation. The CDC owns the 4 patents on the Ebola virus. I didn't think much of it at first. I thought, well, maybe they patent everything. But every time I attempt to put that out there, I get blocked, marked as a spammer, deleted. Why do you think they don't want the public to know that the CDC owns the patents for the Ebola virus?
I think Alex can answer that better than me.
Well, it's a complex issue. We don't know exactly what's happening with the Ebola virus, but I know this. They've never brought people into the country that have had it before. It's more recklessness by government. What do you say to that, caller?
Well, I just know that the fact that they have it patented and the fact that it looks like a nicotine-based stops the cytokine storming of the Ebola virus, it looks to me like it's a patent issue. It looks like someone's trying to make money off the cure.
Well, but then how would they be spreading it in Africa? I mean, I hear you. The H1N1 was a fraud to sell vaccine. I hear you. We'll look into it. We don't know all the answers yet. Gerald, sorry to the other callers. Thank you so much for your time. Trendsresearch.com for folks that want to find out more. Invaluable website and journal. And people can see your daily video and audio reports as well. We got 45 seconds left. What do you see happening in Ukraine?
War. And it keeps building up more and more. The sanctions, if you remember, they started off very lightly, and they keep increasing. You have a time now when Europe is still down economically, and it's going to become more and more difficult to do business. And watch for those border incursions into other countries. That's what's going to be a spark for involvement, I believe.
And they say the Ukraine sanctions is what's plunging our economy and stock market, again, hurting everybody, Russians and Americans. But the EU needs a way to try to keep from collapsing, so war's the way to go. Gerald Celente, thank you so much. Alex Jones here to break down some exciting developments in the area of research concerning supplemental iodine. It's nothing less than phenomenal. I began to get into iodine a few years ago because it was helping me and my family so much get healthy and detoxify. And I used some of the mainline iodine supplements and they upset my stomach and I had some issues with it. Until I discovered a product being developed by Dr. Group, who I was already interviewing as an expert on my radio show, and I began taking the product before he actually rolled it out. You now know it as Survival Shield True Nascent Iodine that your body can really absorb. Then, about a year ago, he said, listen, if you think this is powerful, I'm going to come out with rare earth, deep earth crystals that are incredibly powerful that no one else has as a source for their iodine from between 7,000 and 12,000 feet, literally drilled out of the ground. You put it on a hot plate and it turns into the pure gas. No one else has 99.99% pure iodine. And the results that I personally have had have been life-changing. I was over 270 pounds. And with the iodine, exercise, and better diet, I have lost now more than 50 pounds total, and I'm continuing to lose the weight. I have more energy, my libido, all this crap came out of my skin. I believe our research is conclusive. This is the best iodine out there. And I know this for a fact. Nobody else has got iodine based on these pure crystals, ladies and gentlemen. This is innovating. This is trailblazing. And the best part is it helps fund Infowars.com, the radio show, the TV show, the whole media operation promoting true libertarian ideas. For a limited time, experience the ancient power of Survival Shield X2. Take advantage of this unprecedented 30% off Super Detox special at Infowarslife.com.